All right. Well, we're going to get started so that we don't waste any time with this amazing speaker that I have for you all today. My name is Kendall Bonner. Welcome to this meetup where we get to learn from industry professionals about how they built industry brands, how they developed leadership, and how they transitioned their experience and expertise into influence. So today, I'm super excited to have us talk to someone that I consider to be a mentor to me and a dear friend. And not only that, but I, let me just, I could get into her accolades and I will, but I also want to just share with you just the heart of this woman. And in my opinion, and in my experience, she has been not only kind and generous with her time and her energy and her mentorship, but she's also a powerhouse. She has led companies, major organizations. She has done things in a world where men typically have dominated, and she's been that female presence that that brought strength, balance, thoughtful presence. And it's just such an honor to be in her world and to know her. And how I got to meet her in the first place was being in the room. This is where I tell people all the time, you have to be in the room. If you're not in the room, you're not making the relationships and the connections that allow you to have influence, to have an ear to the ground of what's happening behind the scenes, especially in industries where politics are involved, where social change might be involved, where community activism might be involved. If you want to contribute to those spaces, if you want to be a part of those conversations, you have to get in the room. And I tell people there's two reasons to be in a room. One reason is to have seeds planted and then to have seeds water. And, that's a huge reason why I love to be in the rooms because I get poured into. It's where I meet mentors, it's where I meet and grow my relationships and things like that. So I just want to say today's conversation is about more than public speaking. It's actually about how an accomplished leader learned how to communicate what she knows. She's able to use her experiences to shape an industry, and she leveraged speaking to create opportunities to lead beyond the boundaries of her job title. Sherry Chris is my guest, and she has spent more than 4 decades in real estate. She's led some of the industry's most recognized brands. She has built organizations, she's mentored leaders, she's navigated major periods of change. And she's also represented our industry on numerous stages and in the media. Sherry previously led both Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate and ERA Real Estate. She's also served as the COO of Coldwell Banker, and she's currently the special advisor for the National Association of Realtors, representing on behalf of the largest brokerages in our industry. She's there to strengthen relationships. She's created trust transfers, and she's collaborated between NAR and these big movers and shakers in the real estate world, right? And she's helped bring that broker perspective to NAR and strategic planning, as well as in the public discussing modernization, collaboration, and of course, uh, organizational change, which is always difficult for everyone, but necessary. Her experience and her influence for me has just she's built it across many platforms, and so that's why it's so special to have her here today because she's been in executive leadership, she's done keynotes, she's done the fireside chats, podcast, media, association leadership, mentoring. She's done it all. And so today we're going to go behind the scenes with my dear friend and mentor, Sherry Chris, to explore how she developed her voice and what she's learned from the stage and how leaders can turn their experience into meaningful influence. So thank you so much, Sherry, for being here and welcome.
Well, that's quite an introduction, Kendall. Thank you. That's probably the best intro I've ever had, I've ever received. So I want to say thank you for that. And it's such an honor to be here and share with all of you today. It's great. So thank you, my
Yeah.
friend.
Yes, thank you for saying yes, because I know how busy you are. And the fact that you said yes to me just, I
Of
mean, it gives
course.
giggles and goosebumps. And I love the opportunity to get to know you better, even in this specific space, because you've always been so humble. She's not one to brag about her accomplishments, but I really do believe you've paved a way for women in leadership in our industry, women on stages, and you are someone that likes to open doors for others. And I'm grateful for
Absolutely.
that. So
Thank
beautiful. So let's jump into this first question. I have notes here. So if you see me looking down, friends, this is me just trying to make sure I get my questions right. But, I want to start with a reflection question about your career, just big picture. And, I wanted to ask you, when did you first realize that your responsibility was not only to lead organizations, but also to become a visible voice for the industry?
Kendall, there wasn't a moment in time, but what I've done throughout my career is recognize and act upon the fact that as individuals and as leaders, the number one most important thing is your reputation. And so if you develop a reputation, build a stellar reputation, and maintain that reputation, and we can talk about how to do that during this session. But once you have accomplished that and others have noticed it, then you've got an entrance into the room because you become believable, you become trusted, and people actually listen to what you want to say.
Yeah, and that is so important, right? I mean, it's having the voice, but also getting the opportunity to share what you've learned. I'm curious for you, did getting these opportunities, was that natural for you, or did you feel like you had to work a little harder or deeper trying to turn into the person that shows up on stage, for example, or in these
Yeah.
rooms?
Well, back in my early days, that was when there were very, very few women in leadership. And so quite often I was the only woman in the room and the youngest in the room. And so I had those two things going for me, I say, in a positive way. And so as a result, I had to work harder to prove myself as a human being. And, every room that I walked into, I didn't judge it by the gender of the other attendees. I didn't judge it at all. I knew that I had and believed that I had a seat at the table and could do a job just as effectively as all of them, if not better. And that really ties back to, first and foremost, believing in yourself. If you believe that you're the best person for the job and that you can accomplish the task at hand, it will absolutely happen. And that belief is the starting point of leadership, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of leadership, you've led companies during significant periods of disruption and change. How did those leadership experiences help shape how you now communicate from the stage?
I will go to a recent one. I mean, there have been so many things that have happened in my career, and I'll go to COVID as a recent example. And so, the time that COVID happened and that we were shutting down offices and companies, and that date was March 13th, 2020. It will be ingrained in my brain forever. And at that time, I was running two global real estate brands, a CEO of two brands, and in over 40 countries in total. And so I thought, how are we going to communicate? We had several different things going on. Fear of losing business for agents and broker owners, fear of COVID itself and catching COVID and getting sick or worse, and fear of isolation where we couldn't meet and we couldn't hug people or be in the same room with people. And so how could we overcome those huge challenges and bring groups of people together? So for me, that was the task at hand. And I created a strategy right out of the gate that brought my brokers globally together in groups and meeting weekly. And I called out to my friends in the industry and ask them to participate in different sessions, keynote speakers and well-known industry main stage people, and ask them if they would join my group. And they did. And so each week, I met with a growing number of broker owners around the world where we talked not just about business and how to overcome the business challenges, but how to deal with it on a personal level and how to effectively bring your agents into the fold. So by me teaching, I taught them, and then they, in fact, were able to do the same with their agents. What happened, interestingly enough, is that other brands at my parent company. I was at a company that had six brands. I shared, of course, because as a leader, you openly share. You don't keep things to yourself. I shared my strategy, and others started to. Other leaders within the company embraced it as well. And so it went more widespread than anyone could ever have imagined. And as a result, of course, there were things going on behind the scenes that, we had little control over good things, NAR lobbying for real estate offices to remain open because they were essential and things like that that happened. So you pick your swim lane. How are you going to be effective? And you bring the people in that you're working with and other outside forces. Hopefully, in a positive way, contribute to all of that. And guess what? We got through it all
Amen. Thank God we did. I remember that time. It was a crazy time in our industry
for
that,
years. Yeah,
yes, that lasted a lot longer than I think anyone ever anticipated. And, on a side note here, I'm at that age in my, I was born in the 70s, and I just remember all the scary movies from the 80s and 90s. We're like dealing with all of that now, right?
I
We've had
know.
Plague, we had Terminator.
All of that. I know. Like, who thought of that? And then it kind of came true. That's weird.
It's so funny. Anyway, I had the squirrel, but back to you and your story. I actually wanted to go back to something you said earlier, because I think that is a point I want to pull forward. You mentioned something about having to prove yourself, right, in some of the rooms. And I remember when I was growing up, as a little girl, my mother used to always tell me, Kendall, you need to be the creme de la creme, right? The cream of the crop. And I was raised to think this way, that I had to work harder than hard to, prove myself into certain rooms. And I feel like that's also been the evolution of, dare I say, and I hate this word or this concept, but imposter syndrome, right? Like where we now, I'm sure a lot of people on this call are dealing with imposter syndrome, with feeling like, do I deserve to be in this room? Right? Do I deserve, I haven't proven myself yet, or I still need to prove myself. What advice would you give to, because I'm seeing a lot of ladies, so forgive me, gentlemen, if you're on the call, but in front of my face right now is a bunch of women. And so I feel like we struggle with imposter syndrome in a way men just do not. And can you talk a little bit about that? Did you ever feel imposter syndrome, and how did you overcome that? Because you absolutely deserve to be in every room you're at. And, I'm just,
It,
anyway, you know how I feel about you.
it goes, thank you. It goes back to, it goes back to our childhood where, depending on when you grew up and where you grew up and the makeup of your family, that's how you evolved as an adult. And so imposter syndrome, yes, it was relevant then. It's still relevant today. But I go back to one of the things that I said earlier, and that is we're all human beings. We all have brains. And we all are, all of the people on this call are intelligent because you're on this call and you're wanting to be better. So we have no reason to be an imposter for anything or anybody. In fact, I'll go back to believing that you're the best person for the job, believing that you can accomplish the job, all of that. And you rise to the highest and best use of you, and not everyone is going to rise to, the highest and best use of everyone else. There are people in support roles, there are people in different roles within our industry, and of course beyond, that perform incredibly important functions. But then there are people who deliver the message publicly and bring groups of people together that way as well. And so I continued to search for the highest and best use of me as an individual and my skill set. And fortunately, because I was consciously doing that, I landed where I should have landed and was able to make a difference in different ways than other people, but in different ways in this industry, and also to women as general. I've always helped, anyone who needs help, and will continue to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as someone who's personally been influenced by your leadership, I 100% agree with you on that. One of the other things that has me thinking about this, especially today's young leader, we hear a lot about this concept of, needing permission. Like and I don't know, I always hate that because I'm like, you don't need permission. You just need an example. Like I truly believe in when you see an example, that is one of the most powerful um inspirations, right? If someone else did it, I can too. And so
Yeah.
my next question for you is, many professionals, right, accomplished and otherwise, have great expertise, but don't necessarily see themselves as thought leaders, right?
Yep.
So, what transforms an experienced leader or practitioner into a credible industry voice? Like, what would be your advice or thoughts around that?
Well, here's a piece of advice, and it might be a little unconventional for some of you, but two words, and those words are calculated risks. So, if you are prepared to take a calculated risk, and what is a calculated risk? A calculated risk is and this can apply to your personal life or your business life, but it's understanding what the potential downside of a decision could be and willing to accept that, and also understanding what the incredible upside would be and be willing to take the risk to achieve that. And so I have practiced that throughout my career, and it works in every type of business. It works in a business where you are the sole decision maker, where you are making decisions as the CEO of your very own company, where you don't have a board of directors, you're not part of a public organization. It also works in a large company where you're not the ultimate decision maker, but you need to sell an idea or a concept, and you use that calculated risk to do it. And it works. It works very, very well. And that allows you to go into any situation that you're in with a lot more confidence than just hoping that the outcome will be right. And I practice that today. In joining the National Association of Realtors, some of my industry friends and mentors said, don't do that because you risk ruining your stellar reputation. And others said the opposite. They said you should do it because everything that you've worked towards and accomplished in your entire career has led you to this point, which is a difficult place, but a place that you can make a difference. And so, of course, I chose number two. And listening to people is very good, but you have to make your own decision. You can't be swayed by, what others have to say. So that I can't emphasize the importance of practicing that enough, Kendall.
Yeah, well, what I love about what you just said is you, by taking all of the calculated risks that you have taken as a part of your career, you've created a reputation around being a thought leader that people trust, respect, honor, and listen to. And as a result, a door was opened for you that was unusual and unique and created specially for you. Like your current position right now, it's my understanding that they created that for you to bring you in and to give you an opportunity to have a voice in one of the most powerful institutions in our country, right? I mean, NAR is a very powerful institution, and they created a space for you because they valued your thought leadership so much.
Well, I'm honored and humbled, and by the way, humility is a great leadership trait. serving and leading as a servant leader is not what all leaders do. We know many very, very successful business people that do not lead that way. But if that is part of your internal makeup, it's a very powerful way to lead, and that's how I lead. And with NAR is the largest trade organization in the world with almost 1.5 million members. And so the task at hand is huge to rebuild trust, to bring the broker community, 85,000 brokers across the country, back together, working collectively for the future of our industry. It's a daunting task, but it's an opportunity that I'm very, excited to continue in.
And that's okay. You stay humble, Queen. I'm going to give you your
Yeah,
flowers.
I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay. That there's so much more for us to talk about here today, Kendall.
We're transitioning now, I promise. I just want
Okay.
to give you your flowers because, and I think like just knowing the some of the people on this call, I think it's just important to hear from someone like you because one, it's not that easy to find female high executive level leaders and then to hear from them the way that this group here is getting to hear from you. I mean, there's so many people that have been touched by you in their careers and in their professional lives. I talk to people all the time who when I mention your name like, oh, I have a story about Sherry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Well, there are lots of stories.
they're beautiful stories and compliments to you. So taking a few minutes to not only learn from you from a leader perspective and but also to give you your flowers, I think is important. And I would not be doing you justice to not do that. So thank
Thank
you. I know all of that stuff's a little uncomfortable for you to hear all of that, but I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah. All right. So let's shift into the stage, right? Because a lot of us are here because these are men and women who want more stage time, who want to be thought leaders, who want to be seen as industry influencers. And that's an easier said than done task. And there's not only the aspirational part of it, but there's just the practical piece of being on stage,
Yeah.
right? Let's talk about the practical side of being on stage. If you could think about your earlier major speaking engagements, right? And those opportunities. Do you mind sharing where some of those came from and maybe what's changed for you from your approach then to being on stage to your approach now when you're asked to be on stage?
The big difference is early on, and I still remember my very first presentation where I was literally shaking so bad that I'm sure the entire audience could see my hands shaking. But I like to remember that because you have to start somewhere. And I was willing to go up and make that presentation. And many presentations have been very difficult to deliver a message that's very difficult, and some of them are easy. But there are certain rules that you should follow, guidelines that you should follow each and every time. And so here's what I want to tell all of you from my perspective is that first and foremost, you need to be overly prepared. That is, you can't, even if you know the subject matter incredibly well, you need to be overly prepared. And that preparation for me is actually role playing with myself in a room. And if I'm giving a, PowerPoint presentation or, more of a freestanding presentation, the more often that I deliver the message privately to myself, the easier I'm going to be able to deliver it publicly to everyone. And that is something that I do each and every time, including today, where I'm here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, at the Coastal Carolina Broker Summit in front of an audience of 200, which is not huge by any standards, but it's a very important audience of brokers. So when I got on the stage, I was completely prepared. So that is something that I've learned over the years, and I've certainly made mistakes in the past where I've thought, I know this, I've got it, I can wing it, and you can never wing it. You never, ever wing it. And so that is something, Kendall, that whether I'm being interviewed on a fireside chat, delivering a presentation, or facilitating a panel, of panelists myself, I ensure that I'm overly prepared for it, and that makes a huge difference. And it makes a very, very big difference with your level of confidence too, because you know your stuff when you walk up on stage, and you're able to walk up on stage with that aura of confidence, and the audience senses that and sees that, and then they feel very comfortable with you, the person on stage, because you're in control. So that is a very big part of it, and that I'll never leave. So,
Absolutely. And
and so there's a question when you
yeah,
say overly prepared, what do you mean? Well, I mean that what is the subject matter, and that you are able to deliver your presentation, whatever it is. My subject matter is almost always about real estate. And so I go back and look at talking points from previous speeches. I look at the latest developments in the industry and how I want to deliver that. And so it's reading, it's studying. If you have other people on the stage with you, you want to research those people and understand who they are and know your audience and don't forget their names. If somebody is interviewing you, you need to get the questions in advance and make sure that you not just think about the answers, that you write out the answers and practice the answers. So it's whatever works for you. Everyone is a little bit different with their prep work. And for me, it's a combination of visual and written, and reading, reading it over and over again.
yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sherry. My thoughts on this, Sonia, thank you for the question. And
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate it because it's a great follow-up question to what she was asking. And I would also add this, a couple of notes that she just gave us that I just want to highlight for you guys is she talked about practicing, and I teach this too. It is not enough to practice in your head. Practice out loud, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Take the time to
Always
practice.
practice out loud in your
Yeah.
hotel room or wherever you happen to be. It's often for me a hotel, and I just practice out loud again and again and again. And then you walk away and do something else, go, for a snack or something, and then come back and start over again. And
Yeah.
then, the words will come to you because you've not necessarily memorized it. Some people memorize their entire presentations. I don't do that because I think that that sometimes looks, a little canned in a way. I like to be a little more free flowing, but I know exactly what my next thought is going to be as I'm talking.
And so that's the next point I wanted to make too about what the note she just gave us. The secret to, again, not only just being over prepared, right? Like you want to be the subject matter expert, but also you want to have structure to your talk,
Yes.
right? And when you have a structure, it becomes the safety net that you need to know that, hey, I'm going to start here and the goal is to end over here. It's just funny. I just recorded yesterday for our Academy members my pre-work content, right? So like all the things I do to kind of get ready for the actual speaking engagement, the talk, right? Because as you know, you mentioned it, Sherry, at the beginning, you remember your first talk and how your hands were shaking. I remember one of my biggest first events where I was in front of thousands of people. My leg was bouncing. Like I swear it was bouncing like this under, under my dress. I was
Yeah.
so nervous. And I believed everyone could see it, just like exactly what you said. I could totally relate to that. But since then, I've come up with some pre-talk rituals, right? Like things that I do to help calm my nerves, calm my physiology, get my mind right. Do you have any, quote unquote rituals, like things that you kind of do to help calm your nervous system, and, help you feel like I've got this, as you
Yeah.
prepare, especially right before going on stage? I think
Absolutely.
some tangible, do this, this will help.
Yes. So, what I do a few different things, and each I meditate every morning, and so, and they before a presentation is no exception because that really clears, it clears you spiritually and also physically as well. And so I do that absolutely for sure. And then I also visualize. So, creative visualization. If you're if you're able to visualize yourself on the stage before any presentation, today was no exception. Last night I went to the room, ballroom, and just walked around by myself. I want to see, where the microphone is placed. If I'm presenting slides, am I going to be able to see those slides other than, turning and looking at? So I want to get the whole lay of the land. So the next day when I'm walking on stage, I know exactly what's taking place. And I visualize myself on stage. I visualize the audience reacting favorably to what I'm talking about, and that calms me down. And it also, it gives me courage to go up there and deliver the message that I'm going to deliver.
Yeah, I do those things too. So it's so fun. I feel like there's so many ways to prepare a talk, to give a speech, to have, rituals. And I talk about this in my training that I just recorded last night. That'll be up in the academy by the end of this week. But I believe like there's no one right way to do it. The one
No.
way is the way that works for you. But I do think that there's some similar things that many of us do. Like one of the things I do is so simple. It's just I will stop and take like 3 to 5 extremely deep breaths.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it just slows me down right there.
It
Like just
slows you down. It slows you down. And when you're up there, like we can talk about how to prepare like what should the content be, and what's the difference between delivering a presentation and an exceptional one, because there are some big, big differences there. That from the audience's perspective, what do you do? And I'm going to take myself back a long way back where I have, I've had voice training, so I know how to project my voice in, both a loud way and a soft way, so it's effective. I've had media training where I've had to stand up in front of people and answer hard questions from fake media. I've had deliver messages where people are questioning me. I've had presentation training in the past where I have had to get up and deliver a presentation. And one of my very earliest trainings was how to effectively deliver a presentation. And it was so simple, and I still follow it today. And, you're going to laugh when you hear this because we say it in different words now, but it's basically tell them what you're going to tell them at the beginning, tell them, that's the message, and then have a strong close and tell them what you told them. And, for those of you who want to be professional speakers on a stage, if you go to the TED Talks, and I've been to TED events that are amazing and some amazing speakers that actually have to get up there for, 15 to 20 minutes and deliver with nothing in front of them other than their words. That's exactly what they do. And so they structure the beginning and then tell the story. And storytelling is so powerful. And, people don't want to just hear your words, they want to visualize the story that you're telling them. And then you have a very powerful close. That is, an extremely solid presentation that people will remember.
absolutely. So I'm going to say that to you again for those of you if you wanted to write this down. It's tell them what you're going to tell them.
Mhm.
Number one. Number two, the middle. So that's the beginning. That's your intro. Your middle is tell
Tell
them.
them.
And then the end is tell them what you told them.
Yeah. And that was from many years ago, and it's exactly the same today. And if
Yes,
you go to TED and listen to the very best presentations, you will see and hear exactly that's how they do it.
absolutely. So thank you for that. And I'm going to add that to my list of structures because I have a list of all the various ways that you can structure a talk, right? And but the symbolism or the truth is that every good or great talk has structure, right? And
Absolutely, yes.
structure makes it in fact there's a statistic, I believe 40% of audiences better follow a structured talk than one that is unstructured. And I
Absolutely.
and I think that the challenge is that many speakers who are untrained don't recognize whether their talk has structure or not. It's just a free flow in their mind of what they think they want to communicate, as opposed to focusing on it's not just what you want to say, it's how you say it so that your audience could actually absorb it.
Yes, yes. And there are talks you could listen to presentations and talks that might appear to be very unstructured, but in fact, they're very structured. So it depends on the delivery and who's delivering. So, yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, speaking of audience, how important is the audience to you in preparing for any given speaking engagement, whether it's a keynote or a panel or a fireside chat? How much weight do you give the audience in your preparation and in your delivery?
A lot because I want to know I'm not going to deliver a message for broker owners when it's a room full of real estate agents. So I need to find out, and I do a lot of prep work for each presentation with the group. Here I'm with the Carolina Association of Realtors, so I need to find out from them who's going to be in the room. Is it, in our industry, there are different groups. Is it broker owners that own a business? Is it managing brokers that manage for owners? Will there be agents in the room? And so I find out that, and that helps me tweak my messaging appropriately. Today, there were, almost 200, a combination of broker owners, large and small, and managing brokers as well that work for the broker owners. So the message was a little bit different than it might have been otherwise.
And are you also of the belief and opinion? So this was a mistake that I used to make. Well, I believe it was a mistake. That's what I was told. When I early on in my speaking career, I used to create a brand new talk every time I would get on a stage. Some beautiful human came to me and said, Kendall, you don't need to do that. That's
No.
exhausting. And what you do need to do is have a few signature topics and talks that you have built, and then you can tweak them depending on the audience.
Exactly. Yep.
It's, do you follow
That's
this?
what you do. So, what I did what I do now, and what I did in my previous world as CEO of two brands is I worked, in my previous world, I worked with the marketing communications teams and developed a talk for every year. And it was a message that was based on the brand itself, industry trends. I could tweak it if I wanted to. It ended up being a very short slide deck that was interesting to look at, not 50 or 100 slides. And I carried it with me at all times. And so the more often that you deliver a consistent message, the better the delivery is. And, the more authentic the message is. And so today I'm, representing the National Association of Realtors. And I changed my deck. I change it once a month. So I meet with the communications team and I go through the deck and then we change because it's so dynamic now. The industry issues and problems are changing and solutions are changing so rapidly. So I amend the deck. Now, I don't always put the deck up on a screen, but that's it's my speech. And so I have it there. And it's important. Yeah, you don't have to deliver a different message because you have different audiences, and even if there are the same people in an audience 6 months later, the retention is not great. We don't retain things, and sometimes hearing it a second time is a good thing because it gives the audience participants an aha moment for themselves. But that's part of the preparation as well, is that, you've got that one messaging if you're delivering it time and time again. I mean, I don't know what all of you are doing or planning in the world of public speaking, but that's how it works best for me in the way that I do it. And, I can use those like today I was being interviewed for 45 minutes. So I didn't have, any visuals, but I certainly knew exactly what I was going to say. And I got all of my points out in the questions, and those points are actually the slides in my deck.
Thank you for saying that because I also teach that
Yeah.
you don't have to, whether you're doing a keynote or a panel or a fireside chat, the content and this topic that you own is going to remain the same. You're a subject matter
Yeah.
expert in that area. And so having those, I refer to them sometimes as one-liners and or consistent talking points, it allows you to shift regardless of, the mode of which in which you're trying to communicate these lessons and these stories and this experience. It's irrelevant the style, right, or the format if you really know your stuff and
Yeah,
you put it down pat.
exactly.
So speaking of, you have participated in keynotes, panels, fireside chats, all of the above, right? Media. What format do you find that you enjoy the most, and which one for you requires like the most structure or discipline?
The slides require, even having a few slides as, just companions to your talk require the most because you have to correspond your words with what's up on the screen. And so that requires more. But I don't have any preferred method. It really is what I'm asked to do, I'm able to do. And so I make the slide deck presentation informative. I tell them what I'm going to tell them. I say, today we're going to talk about this, this, and this. And then I talk about it using some stories and not in the old-fashioned way where speakers get up and tell a corny joke. I don't do that at all. But I intertwine stories in my presentation, and then at the end, I have a powerful close based on the content that I've delivered to them. So I'm telling them what I told them. It's very simple, but it's not simple. It sounds simpler than it is, but whatever they want, I'm prepared to do. So it's what the organizers want. I don't, try and persuade them to do something different.
Speaking of, let's shift to event organizers really quick since you brought that up. When working with them, what are some tips or, do's and don'ts, rules in your mind when working with event organizers? Because I think, again, some people don't recognize just how important these people are to their speaking opportunities, right? If you do not want to upset an event organizer because that is the fastest way to not only not be invited back, but you'd be
Right.
shocked. Sometimes they talk to each other because they refer each other speakers, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was interviewing somebody very famous on a stage in Miami a couple of years ago, and I was asked to do it, and I actually knew the person, um, and so it was around design, interior design, and I was shocked at how demanding and rude that person was behind the scenes. Where what they wanted food and I mean, I'm like, dude, we're, this is like you're not on a major stage here, but very demanding, and that kind of threw me off a bit. And I know it threw the organizers were not horrified, but they're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So don't be that person. I don't ask for anything. I take care of myself. I've got my water. I don't want people running around getting me things. I'm very self-sufficient, and that calms me as well. I don't want a lot of people around me. But be kind and understand everyone's role. The organizer's role is more important than your role because without them, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So I compliment people, I talk to people. One of the things that I really like to do is at the beginning of, if it's a room of let's say a few thousand people, um, I go into the audience beforehand, and that calms me. I talk to people that I know. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here. Oh, I'm happy you're here. And, then there's a few selfie opportunities and stuff. That gives me energy, to go up on the stage. Some people go in the back in the green room, we call it. And they're just standing there waiting for their time to go on. I like to do the opposite. I want to share with you one of my most difficult um, stage appearances happened about 7 years ago, and it was the combination of all six brands at the company that I was with. I was overseeing two of them. Um, had a conference, and so there were about 12,000 people there. And so they asked me to interview these two gentlemen called the Property Brothers. Do you know who they are? So they're two brothers that design, and they were not the ones that demanded all the food. This was another design person. So I was interviewing them, and so they, didn't get on a prep call. I looked at videos, I read the book, I, outlined some things that I was going to ask them, and I looked at their deck before because they had pictures of things that they were working on. And so, here are these, like I'm 5'3" without shoes on, and these guys are 6'5". They come out, there's little me on the stage, and um, I started, and I could see that they like played off of each other really well. They're twins, and
Right.
they're cheeky, and so I thought I'm just going in here, and so one of the questions I said I saw that and I created my own questions. I saw that there was recently a Property Brothers cruise, and where you were having design seminars and everything on a cruise ship. And so I was like, what was that? So they're laughing, and I just completely disarmed them, and I was able to take control of the conversation, and which even surprised me at the end. Sometimes you have to do it on the fly. I know I say be prepared. I was prepared, but I wasn't prepared for being a potential outsider in, two very powerful figures on stage that had inside jokes that I wasn't a part of. And so at the end, they loved it. I still keep in touch with them. The audience loved it, and it was a big hit. And so I guess, you have to be able to improvise on stage as well. And that is the opposite of the preparation in some ways. But in some ways, it's not, because you have to know that sometimes you have to improvise. And so that was, honestly my most challenging, but it was also in the end the most rewarding.
I that's great that you brought that up also, because I do believe, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important not to have a specific script, because sometimes you get, when you get called off script, because things happen outside of your
Yeah,
control that call you out of script. And so when you are prepared, I believe that when you are the most prepared, you can go off script, you can improvise, you can be
exactly.
flexible, and then be able to come back. So I think that was just another example of you doing exactly what you do best, which is come prepared and deliver. So we do have two questions, and these will be our last two questions before, and then I'm going to wrap us up from there. But Sonia says, I was doing an interview with a real estate brokerage CEO. The purpose of the interview was for the audience to learn about the benefits given to them. And the answers were really, specifically for the audience. I didn't know if I should look at the CEO when I answered or if I should answer to the audience.
Okay,
I
I can answer that. Yeah. You always answer to the audience. So, always. And so here's what you do. And I tell people, this, and people that I work with that I'm accompanying them to presentations and fireside chats. So the proper protocol is if when Kendall is asking me a question, I look at her while she's asking, and then I turn and answer, addressing the entire audience. And if it's a large room that's a wide room, you look around at the audience. You're not just like looking straight ahead. So that is the definitive answer, period.
Period. Agreed. Always answer the audience. It's actually one of the things that I teach in my panel do's and don'ts. It's so frustrating when a panelist, because I moderate a lot of panels, just like Sherry does. And it's so frustrating. And I try to warn my panelists ahead of time. It's like, I'm going to ask you the question. Look to me for that. But as soon as
Mhm.
you answer, please look at the audience. Don't look at me
Yeah.
anymore. I know we're meant to be having conversation, but the conversation is really not between you and I. It's between you and the audience. I'm just facilitating that conversation between the two of you. So, very, very great, wise advice. Madeline has a great question. She says, Sherry, do you speak outside of the industry at business for business and student groups? And then what leadership lessons would you share with external groups?
Okay, well, the answer is yes. I do speak outside and to women's groups, and because I'm very passionate about helping women everywhere, and particularly young women who are, emerging and beginning in their careers. I've also spoken at schools, to business, uh, you know, um,
Yeah.
business leaders at business schools, and will speak to really anything that's relevant that I feel that I have expertise. So, what I'm very busy with my advisory role now, so I don't have a lot of opportunity outside of the industry. But it is one of my goals to continue to share what I've learned, both from a leadership perspective and from a public speaking perspective. But I think, Kendall, the last part of that question is advice. And I know we don't have a lot of time. I do have some advice that I want to share. So, and it's not advice about how to stand and how to speak, although you should always wear, we didn't talk about for men and women, you should always wear a neutral, um, non-patterned, uh, outfit that suits you. I have my own style. I dress for me, and Kendall, you do too. But don't wear anything that's absolutely crazy. And what I try and do is find out what the background is going to be, particularly if it's a large audience. So what you don't want to, you don't want to blend into whatever the background of the stage is going to be. So that's kind of a vanity thing, but it works very, very well. So here's some advice to all of you, and that is that the speaking part is great, presenting is great, you're sharing your knowledge and expertise with many, many people, but there's more that you can do, and that has to do with connecting at a deeper level and following up. So, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that if I'm on a panel or whatever group I'm going to be with, I always follow them on LinkedIn beforehand and learn about them. And that is something that's important because you're creating a new connection. And people ask me for my business cards. I still carry traditional cards. And whoever reaches out to me, I answer them. And that's very important. And, there's an example that I'll share that just reinforced everything. And that was the Deputy Secretary of State. You were there, Kendall. She spoke at Inman, Adrienne Todman. I was in the green room with her. And she was on the stage at a conference that Kendall and I both speak at regularly in New York. It was, I think, January of 2025. And so I was in the green room. Now, somebody of that stature, you would think would just be by themselves waiting to, go on stage. She came over, she introduced herself to me. She was talking there were about a dozen of us waiting for different things. She was so kind, and we had a great conversation. By the time I left that day, she had followed me on not on Instagram, on LinkedIn, sent me a message on LinkedIn saying what a pleasure it was to meet me. And so I thought, I have to be more diligent myself. She taught me, yes, I do it. I would just click and follow them, but message and connect at a deeper level with people. That was a great learning for me. And I'm sharing it with you today as well, because the more people you interact with, the more connections that you have, the more people will lift you up and help you in the future. And that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. So with that, oh my gosh, I think that's an alarm in my building. Sorry about that. Can
I
you hear
can't
that?
hear it.
Okay, well, we'll wrap this up right now. So I think that's a fire alarm. But let's just say thank you to Sherry, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us such an honest look at what happens both on stage, and behind the scenes. One of the most important lessons from today is that leadership experience does not automatically become influence. We have to learn how to communicate, right, friends? And that experience of communicating in a way that people can understand, remember, and do something with. So, if you are on this call today and you are not in the Industry Speaks community on school, I'd love to have you join us there. This is where I provide value to you to help you do this work. So, if you'd like to watch the replay of this is going to be available for replay for our premium and VIP members. Stay tuned for more future speaker interviews. Please tell us in the chat, did you get value out of this listening to Sherry? I mean,
Thank
I
you so much.
so much value.
Thank
So
you. It was my honor and pleasure to meet all of you, and I wish you the very, very best in your careers and your lives. And Kendall, I'll see you in a few weeks in San Diego. Yes.
you will. I appreciate you so much, Queen.
Thank you.
And to all of our audience members, thank you so much for being here. If there's anything else I can do for you, please let me know. I'm going to put the link to join the community again in the chat, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone. Bye bye. Thank you.